Welcome to the session 51 and 52, that is meaning of globalization and strategies for going global. In this session, we study about various strategies which are available for going global with step by step. After the learning objective of this study is to learning the strategies for going global. In this session, the students will be able to understand the various strategies for going global with its advantages and disadvantages and various avenues which are having more opportunities and strengths in their own business limitations and weakness and threats. So here this analysis is helpful for analyzing the various strategies with their positive and negative outcomes. The first, we know the meaning of globalization. The term globalization refers to the process of integration of the economy of the nation with the world economy. Means it is a multifaceted aspect. It is a result of the collection of multiple strategies that are directed at transforming the world towards a greater interdependence and integration. In other words, globalization is the method of interaction and union among people, corporations, and governments universally. Let's discuss the various strategies which are available for going global. It involves various decision making on the following fronts. First is deciding whether to go global. Every manufacturer, whether producing tooth powder, herbal product, or software, is planning to take his product beyond the Indian shores. Open the newspaper or periodical, you find profiles of companies fully illustrated joint venture deals with the foreign companies or foreign investment flowing into power, roads, and other infrastructural areas. Theoretically, it may be argued that deciding whether or not to go global is a difficult job, particularly when domestic market is vast, as it is the case with our country also. For a long time, our business persons enjoy a sheltered and washed market where they could sell whatever they produced. But today's environment is different. Technological innovations, crumbling trade barriers, global flow of capital revolution in the information technology, intensity of market, competition, changing lifestyles, and demand for new products are making internationalization inevitable. Before going to international, the company must see several risks and answer many questions about its ability to operate globally. Can the company learn understand the preferences and buying behavior of consumers in other countries? Can it offer comparatively with foreign nations? Do the company manager have necessary international experience? Has the management considered in the impact of foreign regulations and political environment? These are all the questions raised in before going to international business. Because of the risks and difficulties of entering foreign market, most of the companies do not act until some situation or event thrust them into the global sense. Someone, a domestic exporter, a foreign importer, a foreign government asks the company to sell abroad and the company is saddled with over capacity, it becomes important that the former must find additional market for its goods. This the concept of deciding whether to go global. Next step in this strategy is to deciding which market to enter. While deciding in which market to enter, it involves various decisions on volume of foreign affairs, number of countries to market in, and the types of countries to enter. Most companies start small when they go abroad. Some plan to stay small, viewing foreign sales as a small part of their business. Other companies have bigger plans, seeing foreign business as equal or even more important than their home business. There is a temptation for a company to spreading its wings in as many countries as possible, but it makes better sense to operate in a few other countries with a deeper market penetration in each. Here, the types of country to enter depend on the type of the product, geographical factors, income and population, political climate, and other related factors considered. It is advisable to rank the countries on specific factor is better. The goal is to determine the potential of each country, and it goes without saying that the country which a source long run returns on investment must be selected for entering its international market. This is the strategy of deciding which market to enter and various factors to be considered in this strategy. Next is to entry strategies. Here, various entry strategies are decided. The company has to decide to go global. It must decide on the best mode of entry. The usual entry strategies are including as follows. One is exports and imports. Exports are goods and services produced in one country but marketed in another one country. Imports are goods and services produced in one country and but brought by another country. Exports and imports do not take place only in tangible goods but also include various services also. Services such as this provided by international airlines, cruise lines, reservation agency and hotels, etc. In fact, that trade in services is heavier than buying and selling of physical goods. Here main question is to why do firms export? Reasons are not difficult to find. Exporting sales, gaining experience, and building brand equity are the main reasons for firms selling goods and services in overseas market. Next is next mode is tourism and transportation. Tourism and transportation are the roots of globalization. Perfect industries as shipping, airlines, hotel, and travel agency. Some countries, Greece and Norway, for example, depend on international tourism and transportation for employment, profit, and foreign exchange earnings. Earnings from foreign tourism are more important for certain economy than our earnings from export of merchandise. Similarly, in recent years, the US has earned more from foreign tourism than from its export of agricultural goods. Next is performance of services. International International business earn money in the form of fees for services rendered. This is particularly true in banking, insurance, rentals, engineering, management services, and the like. Turnkey operations are typical models for earning such fees. Here, the company contract with a foreign entity to design and build an entire operation. Next entry strategy is use of asset. In this use of assets, licensing and franchising are the modes of which facilitates company allow others to use their assets. Under license agreement, one firm permits another to use its intellectual property for compensation called royalty. The firm that makes the offer is the licensor and the recipient firm is designated as the licensee. The property license generally includes such assets as patents, trademarks, copyrights, technology, technical know how, business skills, and the like. Licensing amounts to exporting intangibles also. The another route of globalization is franchising, which involves the granting of right by a parent company, the franchisor, to other the franchisee to do business in a prescribed manner. The right can take the form of selling the franchisor product using its name, production, and marketing techniques or using its general business approach. Usually, franchising involves a combination of all these elements. Franchising can be beneficial to both the group. It provides the franchisor with a new stream of income and the franchisee with a proven concept and the product that can be quickly brought to the market. These are all the advantages of franchising to the franchisor. Next mode is direct investment. Direct investment is one of the activity that allows the investor a controlling interest in a foreign company. Foreign direct investment is another one name for direct investment. FDI may take the form of joint venture or a wholly owned subsidiary. Joint venture is a shared ownership in a foreign business. The venture is 50-50 ownership in which there are two parties, each of which holds a 50% ownership stake and contributes a team of managers to share operating control. Fuji Xerox is one of the most enduring and successful joint venture between two companies of different countries. The world's famous company Rolls Royce having 25 joint ventures across all its business activities. There are 868 Indian joint ventures abroad, out of which 286 ventures are in operation and 582 are under different stages of implementation. The approved equity of these ventures amount to $1,097.68 million in joint venture operation. A wholly owned subsidiary can be set up in a foreign market in either two ways. The company can set up a totally new operation, can acquire an established firm and use the firm to promote its products. The subsidiary that is established starting from the ground up is called greenfield investment. In a wholly owned subsidiary, the company owns 100% of equity. At present, there are 733 wholly owned Indian subsidiaries abroad, out of which 216 are in operation and 517 are at various stages of implementation. The approved equity of these subsidiaries amount to $820.59 million. This is the various entry strategies which are discussed in various stages. Next is learning to handle differences. Another stage in evaluating a global strategy is learning to handle differences that persist across the countries. Differences are often difficult to perceive, but careful observation skill dividend is in the form of new opportunities and new ways of reducing risk. Political environment where across the countries the two fundamental practical environment exists in the word democracy and totalitarianism. This totalitarian democracy is provide stable business environment through laws protecting individual property right. The totalitarian or authorization regimes are marked by corruption, cops, and bloodbaths. The international manager needs to study the potential political environment for obtaining in the host country and modify the strategies to shift local needs. More pronounced are the cultural differences existing across the globe, such as food habits, buying habits, languages, communication system, body languages, gift giving, and negotiation systems vary from country to country. No product cancelled in the standardized form to all the buyers can be designed and executed in the same way in all the media of the world. No good can be packed with similar colors and displayed in the retail stores on all the countries, and no international manager can use same body language and nonsense while sitting across a table to negotiate with an Arab, a Japanese, Korean, or an Indian businessman. There are various differences we can arise from country to country. Next stage is to adjusting the management process. Management process as is well known involve planning, organizing, staffing and controlling. Now this process needs to be different for an MNC operation in an international environment. Managerial action, both at the macro level and micro level, need to be oriented differently. At the macro level, issues generally involved are what social steps are needed in the planning and control system of MNC. Should organization be structured and coordinated differently in different countries? How to recruit people and compensate them adequately? Should the performance appraisal system differ from country to country, etc., are the macro environmental issues which are involved in management process. At the micro level, the decisions involves are how should one individual interact with another from different country? Should people in one country be managed differently from people in another country? Are the certain micro level issues involved in adjusting the management process? Next is to selecting the managerial approach. What must be the appropriate managerial practice suitable for an MNC is an approach while selecting the managerial approach. For a long time, the popular belief was that West European American approach was ideal for any company, including multinational. Then came to the Japanese management, about which no manager or consultant stopped talking about. Which of these approaches should suitable for an MNC? Before answering these questions, It is useful to know what these approaches specially mean. Next is deciding an before that and adjusting the management process. In this approach, there are certain points will be considered. The owners is the affirmative. Following features are common to most Indian businesses, that are most decisions made are not by professional managers but by family members. Most executives are second generation entrepreneurs, sons, sons of fathers, known for extravagance and flamboyance. If their business have been successful, it is mainly because of general environment prevailing in the country till 1990s. And siblings quarrel for shares in the fortunes. Personal ambitions are more important than the fortunes of the organizations built up by their parents. And most decisions are made by intuition or on the advice of astrologers, palmists, or vastu consultants. These are all the factors which affects while selecting the managerial approaches in Indian global businesses. Next is to deciding on organizational structure. Efficient organization of an MNC requires an effective organizational structure. A successful organization should maintain more the operating internal communication and controls, as well as a sensitive and flexible interaction with the dynamics of the international business environment. Several factors which affecting the organizational design of an MNC can include corporate objectives, management style, external constraints, and internal constraints. The corporate objectives are the objectives of the company at the top level management, which are deciding on main objectives of the businesses. These may be internal objectives and external objectives also. There are main corporate objectives includes earning profit, wealth, growth, and market leadership, etc. are certain corporate objectives. Now, management styles. Management style can affect organization design profoundly. So, in the management styles, ethnocentric management style is characterized by strong control by the parent company. Its organizational structure reflects a strong centralization in decision making, and most of its managerial personnel are home country nationals. In polycentric management, it allows decentralization of authority and decision making. Management personnel in foreign subsidiaries are largely of the host nationalists. In geocentric management, The organizational design is cosmopolitan with little concentration of decision making and personnel in any particular nationality. The characteristics of these management styles are relevant not only in the organization design but also in marketing, production, finance, personnel control, and business strategy, etc. Also. Next is external constraint. External constraints comprise of geographical regularity and market share. Stronger the market share, more freedom the MNC has in deciding a structure. Where the MNC has operations over a large number of countries, mixed structure can be choice. Where regularity environment is high, MNC needs to have a compact organizational structure. And MNC can adopt any of the six fundamental structure. These fundamental structures include international division structure, worldwide functional organization structure, geographic area organization structure, product organization structure, mixed organization structure, and matrix organization structure. These are all the external constraints and organization structures. Next is lastly internal constraints. It includes manpower and capital requirement, where capital is no constant in MNCs, can have a decentralized structure also. If manpower is strong, a matrix structure can be a choice. According to the internal constraints, the organizations should MNC or MNC operations should select best organization structure with both the external and internal constraints base, based. So these are all the various strategies and the decisions for going global.